Hello and welcome. I'm Ananya Datta and I'm back with another edition of Race to Power. Here's what's coming up in the next 30 minutes. Hamas's political chief was killed in an early morning strike. While that has implication of its own, it happened on Iranian soil, just hours after Masoud Pezeshkian officially became the president. We decode what's coming next. Less than 100 days to go for US presidential elections, and Donald Trump has just realized that doing nothing was a good strategy against Joe Biden, not so much against Kamala Harris. She is tapping on Trump's core base, white Republican men. Within a few hours of officially becoming the president of Iran, Masoud Pezeshkian was given a news that will have far-reaching implications for the country and the region as a whole. Hamas's chief Ismail Haniyeh was killed on Iranian soil. The question is, what will the president do next?
As Masoud Pezeshkian was being sworn in as Iran's 9th president, he knew what came with the title. It was Ibrahim Raisi's legacy cut short.
دولت من هرگز تسلیم زورگویی، فشار و استانداردهای دوگانه نخواهد شد.
But hours after his first speech as the president of Iran, this happened.
Breaking news coming in. Hamas Chief Ismail Haniyeh and one of his bodyguards have been killed after their residence in Tehran was targeted.
Hamas's political chief Ismail Haniyeh was killed on Iranian soil. One of Haniyeh's last meetings was with President Pezeshkian, where both leaders extended full support to each other in the fight for Palestinians. After Hamas announced its chief's killing, Tehran was quick to condemn it and vow revenge. On your screens are 3 quotes that depict the hierarchy and the seriousness of the situation. The supreme leader said it is Iran's duty to avenge Haniyeh's blood in this bitter incident. President Pezeshkian said, and I quote, "Yesterday I raised this victorious hand and today I have to bury him on my shoulders. We'll make the terrorist occupiers regret their cowardly action." And the IRGC issued a statement vowing Israel will face a harsh and painful response from Iran and its allies. Right from day one, Pezeshkian has a lot on his plate. The red flag unfurled atop Iran's Jamkaran Mosque spells it out, a signal from Pezeshkian that despite differences with Iran's top regime, they are all united when standing against Israel. Pezeshkian has 15 days to form his cabinet. He and his ministers were expected to thaw Iran's relations with the West. But that's up in smoke, at least for now. Experts say the country's economy is banking on his reforms, domestic and global. The Iranian currency nosedived on news of Haniyeh's death. It was trading at more than 600,000 riyals per US dollar. So amid thickening war clouds, the new president of Iran has a delicate balancing act to maintain. One with the economy, the other with security. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
And to take this big story further, we are being joined by political analyst Farshid Bagherian is joining us live from Tehran. Sir, thank you so much for joining us on WION. We are good to see you. I want to first ask you, what do you think is going to be the political implication of Haniyeh's killing in Iran?
Thank you very much for the invitation. The fact is that I'm so upset with Mr. Pezeshkian that the first day of his inauguration of the new government is happened with this, heinous assassination. Whatsoever of this association, it's become the first day of the new era. But the fact is, every kind of the plan for the new government that had planned before, for example, to recover the economy, to recover the relationship with the West or other countries, right now is affected by this assassination. Because the first step is for Mr. Pezeshkian and his administration, I mean, in coming days, after maybe 2 or 3 weeks, is to recover what is the lack of intelligence, lack of information, lack of surveillance, lack of defense, or lack of other things. This is the very important thing, that Iran is right now in the middle of making a very hazardous decision.
Right.
The decision is to hit back again Israel or not. Actually, I'm not thinking that the Israel is in the back of this assassination itself, because this is the collective operation. No government in the world can do this by himself, because they have to use the domestic power, the domestic individuals. Otherwise, you cannot find Mr. Haniyeh at the 2 o'clock in the early morning, and you can find out that Mr. Haniyeh, what is his next step in that time. So, but the day before of this assassination, about the 87 countries administrators was in Iran. Guess that if in this time, I mean, at that moment, something happened, right now we are facing, or maybe we are in the middle of the Third World War. Yeah, right. Thank you. Yeah.
Mr. Magirian, you're making a big claim there. Just moving on a little bit from what you were saying before as well. We know that President Pezeshkian has to form his cabinet in the coming 15 days. I want to ask you, do you think what happened today is going to have bearing on that?
Regarding this assassination?
Yes, absolutely. Do you think that adds more pressure on Pezeshkian?
Absolutely, there would be some pressure. This pressure is not only by himself or by for example, by the sorrow of the lacking of the Mr. Haniyeh and his association in Iran as a guest. The pressure is by the army on Iran. We have, we have two official army. And this pressure is by the state itself, not government, state. Because in Iran, we have councils, different type of councils. And these councils make the decision, like in the United States, for example, CFR, Council of Foreign Relations. In Iran also, we have many councils. And these councils have their own pressure. And the hierarchy of this pressure is too much for Mr. Pezeshkian.
Right.
For that reason, I started that pity for Mr. Pezeshkian, because he started his cabinet and his career with the assassination and the lack of the information and something else. Anyway, yeah.
All right, Mr. Bagarian, very quickly, if I could ask you, there was one quote by President Pezeshkian during his inaugural speech he was directly speaking to the Western governments, and if I could quickly quote that, he said that Iran is prepared to engage in dialogue with Western governments that have not yet understood Iran's dignity. I want to ask you, do you think Haniyeh's killing has burned out that bridge of dialogue?
No, I don't think so, because the reason of bringing Mr. Pezeshkian to the power is to recover the dialogue between Iran and West. The reason of being a Mr. Pezeshkian is that. So right now, maybe some power, I don't want to pronounce the power. I can, but I don't want. Some powers is not trying to make more distance between Iran and the United States, or maybe the world. It's better to say the world, not only Iran, because the Europe is making more distance with Iran, especially with Germany. So for that reason, some powers is not content and is not comfortable with Iran and West ties and Iran and Europe ties. This is the fact, and some powers are not fascinated with that, situation.
All right, Mr. Bagarian, thank you so much for joining us on WION and getting us your insights. It was a pleasure speaking to you.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good interview. Bye.
Shifting focus now, U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris put on a star-studded rally in Atlanta. The unofficial presidential nominee who is stepping into Biden's shoes took a swipe at Donald Trump and his running mate while also speaking on immigration issues. Here's a report.
Likely Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris held a spirited rally in Atlanta on Tuesday that highlighted the new energy she has brought to November's election against Republican nominee Donald Trump.
So the momentum in this race is shifting. And there are signs that Donald Trump is feeling it.
The vice president took jabs at Trump and his running mate, J.D. Vance.
And by the way, don't you find some of their stuff to just be plain weird?
There are less than 100 days to go in one of the least predictable election seasons in recent memory. Since Biden ended his re-election bid just over a week ago, Harris has significantly outperformed him in recent polling among young people, black voters, and Hispanic voters. A Reuters Ipsos poll published on Tuesday showed Harris with a 1-point lead over Trump, down from 2 points a week earlier. She was joined in Atlanta by rappers Quavo and Megan Thee Stallion, who performed before Harris's speech. Harris pledged Democrats would win Georgia, a swing state the party had written off, which could play a decisive role in November. She also taunted Trump for backing out of a debate with her.
I do hope you'll reconsider to meet me on the debate stage. Because as the saying goes, if you've got something to say,
Harris also appeared to embrace some Biden policy priorities, vowing to bring down prices on day one of her presidency. She said she would ban more hidden banking fees, take on corporate landlords, and, quote, cap unfair rent increases. After her speech, Harris appeared on a Zoom call with supporters, telling them, quote, this is a sprint, and asking them to volunteer. Her quickly assembled campaign has raised $200 million since Biden dropped out, and signed up 170,000 new volunteers. Sources say Harris will reveal her new vice presidential nominee at a rally on Tuesday in Philadelphia. The location suggests Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro has moved to the top of a short list of running mates.
Political disagreements.
Now, it seems like a good time to be Kamala Harris. Latest polls show that her break Trump's lead in key battleground states, and the vice president is almost unanimous backing of Democrats for her presidential bid. Her war chest has gone up by over $200 million in just 1 week. And now Republicans, particularly white men, are leaning towards Harris, less than 100 days ahead of U.S. elections. As Harris's hastily put together campaign picks up momentum, there is an unlikely group also rallying in for her support. In Wisconsin, one of the key swing states, billboards with faces and testimonial of Republican-leaning white males supporting Harris are being featured.
I want to send a clear message to Republicans that have signed off on having Trump's endorsement realize that the policies that he endorses and the program he has enunciated for our country is absolutely antithetical to anything that stands for America.
The billboards and a minute-long ad are part of a campaign that is run by a group called Republicans Against Trump. The effort is meant to target voters in the swing states of Michigan, Pennsylvania and Wisconsin who are conservative, leaning independents or undecided.
We're running a $500,000 campaign in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, amplifying the voices of former Trump voters who are going to be supporting Kamala Harris this November. We're also running a 60-second ad on streaming platforms and on digital platforms, featuring dozens of these former Trump voters making the case against a second Donald Trump administration.
Harris's in-person rallies are not the only ones that are star-studded campaigns. Just on Monday, a live video call event urging white men to vote for the 59-year-old Democrat raised about $4 million in one night. Over 190,000 people attended the event called White Dudes for Harris. Celebrities including Star Wars actor Mark Hamill and singer Josh Groban were also in attendance. The events and campaigns reveal an interesting voter dynamic emerging just a few months ahead of the November 5th elections, which many experts and analysts are referring to as the least predictable election yet. And as presidential elections draw closer, a burning issue on the ballot is making headlines again. In Iowa, the 6-week abortion ban has taken effect. 1 month after Iowa's state Supreme Court ruled against a challenge by Planned Parenthood, the strictest abortion law America has seen in modern times has come into effect. The law bans abortion beyond 6 weeks, except in cases of rape, medical emergencies, and fetal anomalies.
Very problematic. I think that it is something that really is not what the people here want. It's not, nobody asked. Nobody asked me, nobody asked. And I just think it's unfortunate that our state got caught up in what's happening across the nation. And it doesn't reflect, I don't believe it reflects the views of what people want. And especially what women deserve.
Pro-abortion rights advocates and Democrats in the state have vowed to continue fighting for abortion rights at the ballot box, and by also helping out the women by assisting with abortions outside the state. Most women and activists have raised an alarm over the 6-week time period, arguing that most women don't even know they are pregnant by then. Most pregnancies are identified in a period of 8 to 10 weeks. But pro-life supporters, while celebrating the new legislation, say that they have more to achieve.
And so our end goal, our gold standard, has been and will continue to be protecting all life from the moment of conception. So we are looking forward to next legislative session already and hope to introduce a life at conception bill here in Iowa, because we will not rest until all of our preborn brothers and sisters are protected under our law.
Shifting focus to another big story, thousands of people have taken to the streets in Venezuela to protest against what they call President Nicolas Maduro's fraudulent election win. The protests, which the government denounced as an attempted coup, began after Maduro was declared the winner with 51% of the votes. However, the opposition says that 80% of the votes tally to which it has access show its contestant Edmundo Gonzalez had more than twice as many votes as Maduro.
No aceptamos el chantaje de que defender la verdad es violencia. Violencia es ultrajar la verdad. Violencia es pretender desconocer la soberanía popular que ya decidió el pasado domingo. No crean que nadie va a aceptar ahora, no crean que vienen a ajustar o a cambiar actas. Las actas originales oficiales ya las conocemos y el mundo entero las ha visto.
Footage shared on social networks showed protesters tearing down statues of Hugo Chavez in several Venezuelan cities. According to reports, at least 5 statues were destroyed during the anti-government protests. The clashes have resulted in the death of at least 11 people so far, and according to Venezuelan authorities, at least 749 people have been detained amid recent protests. The detainees are being charged with offences such as public intimidation, incitement to hatred, and in more severe cases, terrorism. The renewed instability has brought divided international reaction as well. In the latest, US President Joe Biden spoke with Brazilian President Lula da Silva, where they agreed that the Venezuelan government must quickly publish the vote tallies on Sunday's contested election.
We have serious concerns that the result announced does not reflect the will or the votes of the Venezuelan people. It's critical that every vote be counted fairly and transparently, that election officials immediately share information with the opposition and independent observers without delay, and that the electoral authorities publish the detailed tabulation of votes.
Shifting focus now, political drama is gaining momentum in Sri Lanka, just weeks ahead of elections. In a new twist, more cracks have emerged in the SLPP, which earlier refused to back Ranil Wickremesinghe on his re-election bid. Sri Lanka's Urban Development and Housing Minister has informed former President Mahinda Rajapaksa that he will support the current President, Ranil Wickremesinghe, in the upcoming presidential election. In a letter, the minister mentions that the country is not currently in a suitable condition to take risks or experiment. Now, Ranatunga is the third leader to pledge support to the incumbent after two other SLPP leaders did the same. That were state ministers, and they had earlier expressed their support for the president in a social media post. The development also comes just a day after 92 lawmakers backed the Sri Lankan president's re-election bid, giving a major boost to his candidacy. Cash-strapped Sri Lanka will hold its first election since the year 2022, when it plunged into the economic bankruptcy. The polls are likely to decide the future of the reforms in the South Asian island. Now, our correspondent Dasuni Athauda has more on this from Colombo.
Sri Lanka's election landscape continues to change by the day, with the latest being an overwhelming number of MPs from the governing parties as well as other alliances have since extended their support to President Ranil Wickremesinghe. However, the key question remains whether this extension of support by these MPs will ultimately be reflected by the voting constituencies of each of these MPs. Sri Lanka's presidential election is purely decided by the people of the country and not by the MPs solely. So this will be an interesting election, given the fact, as of right now, no candidate appears to be a clear frontrunner or a clear winner. Stay with WION as we bring you the very latest. Reporting from Colombo, I'm Dasuni Athauda.
And now let's take a quick look on what else is making headlines in the world of politics. Sudan's Army Chief General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan reportedly escaped an assassination attempt after a drone strike targeted an eastern Sudanese army base during his visit. Witnesses said that Burhan was at the base during the strike, and officials from the government, which is aligned with the army, says that he was taken safely to Port Sudan afterwards. Shortly after the attack, the head of armed forces was seen greeting officers, seemingly unmoved by the incident. And in Myanmar, the military junta has extended the state of emergency by 6 more months, delaying promised elections again. The country has been in a state of chaos since February of 2021, when a coup was launched, and that ended a 10-year period of democracy and sparked protests and armed resistance. State broadcaster reported that the decision to extend the emergency was unanimous among the National Defense and Security Council. The junta chief has also argued that more time is needed to prepare for valid and accurate ballots for the promised elections, which may happen in the year 2025, that's next year. The military took power after accusing the 2020 election winners, Aung San Suu Kyi's National League for Democracy, of fraud. And with that, we're wrapping up this edition of Race to Power. Thanks for watching with me, Ananya Datta.
The quest for an Olympic medal is sport's greatest pursuit. Over 10,000 sportspersons are descending on Paris to realize their dreams.
The Olympics, it's a sweet way, but it comes with pressure.
The Olympic Games are the pinnacle of sport, and they demand sacrifices, from both sportspersons and those covering it. I'm Digvijay Singhdeo, and I will be tracking the best in sport over the next 3 weeks from here in Paris.
Can India's sporting stars double their tally from Tokyo? Will new stars emerge, or will sport's big names maintain their stranglehold? Watch Gunning for Glory through the Paris Olympics at these times on WION.
WION Health Resort is unique, the only one of its kind. Experience the 4 paths of natural wellness: yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy. Each uniquely customized program improves the whole person to make every person whole. Come to WION Health Resort. Make your reservation at